I am currently filming this video with the LUMIX S1 Mark II at 6K 24 frames per second open gate because I'm a YouTube douchebag trash shill, as some of you might want to call me now since I'm shooting on the LUMIX Shill 1 Mark II. And you know, the LUMIX S1 Mark II has severe overheating issues and I've never mentioned it, so I'm a piece of trash tube doucher that is just trying to sell you the S1 Mark II. And I'll tell you that right now, that this is complete bullshit, because one of the most important things to me in life and on this, you know, social media D-bag trash crap is my reputation of just, you know, being straightforward, no bullshit kind of person. I might not be the nicest looking person. I might not be the most social. I might not have the best social skills, you know, in person. But if you're gonna ask me about something, I'm gonna try to give you the most 100% authentic answer possible, and you know, as close to 100% of what I'm thinking as possible. You know, obviously without offending or, you know, saying something crazy. But like the fact that you cannot have a positive opinion about a product without being accused of saying nice things about a product only because you're getting paid or something on this camera YouTube space is wild to me. If I wasn't getting some kind of compensation for this shit, it would be very hard for me to do. For example, I have a fishing channel and I started that fishing YouTube channel a couple years ago, started going pretty hard on it, because I was under the assumption that once I got to 1,000 subscribers, I was going to be able to monetize my video, meaning I would be able to have ads on my video and get paid ad revenue from people just watching my videos. And it really motivated me to go out and film and go fishing and stuff, because I love fishing. And what better way to make a little extra money than fishing and also making some money out of it. So I hit 1,000 subscribers and I realized YouTube have changed their criteria for making ad revenue. So of course I realized that, okay, I got 1,000 subscribers now, but I still need to get like some certain amount of, you know, watch hours to get monetization. It really drained me and I couldn't move forward. You know what I mean? Like I was just like, wow, it's going to take a lot more to start getting some monetized. It's going to get a lot more for me it's going to take a lot more work for me to get paid for this. And, you know, at the time it was crazy because it would take, you know, 5 hours of fishing. Then you go through like a bunch of action camera footage just to make this YouTube video that may or may not get views. And it's a big time investment. And I'm a, you know, full-time videographer. I'm a parent. There's a lot of other, and I have this YouTube channel here. Like there's way too much for me to do. So I was like, I can't do it. Okay. So it is really wild considering people go on YouTube, watch these YouTube creators, including myself, these tube douchers, these tube doucher shills like myself, basically to get entertainment and information, and they get it for free. You get it for free. People get to watch YouTube for free. I get to watch YouTube for free. But for some reason, there's a problem if YouTubers get paid for it, because this is just how the world works. You watch television, you pay for Netflix subscriptions, you pay for Paramount Plus, you pay for Apple TV, you pay for HBO Max, you pay for Netflix, and they're getting your payment and they get to run ads while you're watching. They're like getting double the payment, right? You just need to have a Wi-Fi connection. You're watching YouTube. Why is it a problem if the YouTuber gets a sponsorship? So, well, you're saying it's unbiased. Well, I'm telling you right now that this video is sponsored by Kamika. I was supposed to do the sponsorship on my last video about the LUMIX S1 Mark II, and I was holding this mic. And this mic, for some reason, did not record internally as expected. This is the Kamika Boomax wireless system. It is a typical wireless microphone, okay? It has two of these transmitters, and it has a receiver in a charging box. It's magnetic. You've seen it before. Other brands have it. It is not anything groundbreaking or anything new. To me, what is cool about it, to me, is that internal recording. Not only is it 32-bit float, again, nothing new, but it has 32 gigabytes of storage. That is new because the other ones only have 8 gigabytes. On top of that, it is almost half the cost of the competitors. This system, 32-bit float, wireless microphone, is $189. This wireless microphone with 32-bit float internal recording, so the competing ones are like $300, $330, $350, maybe even up to $400. One cool feature this has, which the other ones don't, is that it actually has a different pickup pattern, which instead of just having the more broad sound recording, you could have one that's more direct, that's more closer to a shotgun mic, which I could switch to now. This is the more cardioid pickup pattern. So I don't know if you could tell a difference between this and the way this sounds, but you know, if you want a more direct sound, like maybe you're doing like an interview type of thing and you have the mic pointed direct towards someone's mouth, you might want to use the cardioid version and it will sound like this. But if you know, just clipping it onto someone's shirt or what have you, then you could do the standard omni recording, and that's how it is. But yeah, this video is sponsored by Comica because I am doing this video for your entertainment, your viewing, and I'm going to try to get paid for it. Ad rev, I'll need you to buy my merch, my hats, whatever. Click the links in the description for this Comica microphone. Get me some of the commission from Amazon so I can feed my children properly. So yeah, it's YouTube is a wild place to be. Right now, a quote unquote hot topic, now no pun intended, is the overheating of Sony douchebag fanboys because YouTubers are quote unquote switching from Sony to LUMIX, and you know, Sony fanboy douchebag trashes are just besides themselves, crying and having severe overeating due to the stress and emotional agony of watching the tube douchers use camera that is other than the one that they own. All jokes aside, the hot topic is actually overheating of the LUMIX S1 Mark II and the LUMIX S1RII. Hey man, you got a new camera? Yeah, this is actually the LUMIX S1II. I actually have it all rigged out with the tilter cage on it. Those tube doucher shills actually weren't shilling. This is a great camera. Oh my god, LUMIX S1 Mark II. It's rat and unprofessional. Why do you say that? It have an overheat problem. Bro, I use this camera to film 6K open gate for like 3 hours. 5.1K 60 frames per second open gate in like 95-degree weather. I didn't even get an overheat warning. No man, I have a friend with an uncle who cousin saw on the Facebook a guy say his friend father with a LUMIX S1 Mark II. It overheat in 5 minutes with 4K 60. They must have been in India filming Indian street food directly on top of a bucket of hot brown oil surrounded by hot and humid sweaty pits. You need to do the overheat test outside in direct sunlight 4K 60. Bro, no one films a long duration 4K 60p in shitty ass direct sunlight. I am not gonna do a bunch of unrealistic overheating tests. Let me show you. You could film the camera with 4K 60, put in the microwave. It overheat, it unprofessional. You film the camera 4K 60 in the air fryer, it overheat, it unprofessional. You film the camera like that 4K 60, it overheat, it unprofessional. Bro, back your mouth away from the damn camera. Your hot ass fish sauce breath will melt the camera before it even overheats. And I didn't mention it in my video because I personally didn't have any issues with the LUMIX S1 Mark II overheating. I heard that the S1R was overheating, and I already knew, you know, has a lot more, it's like 8K, whatever, it's processing a lot more. So I wasn't surprised that it overheat, because Sony has overheating issues when it comes to like being in direct sunlight, and if it's not like a FX3, FX30 with a fan, those other A7 IVs, you know, lesser extent A7S3, because A7S3 is only processing 12 megapixels, but A7 IV is doing 33, or A7R, whatever, those, or, you know, A9, whatever, they could overheat in direct sunlight because of all the processing those cameras are doing. And so it's just common knowledge to me that there's a potential for overheating, but apparently a lot of LUMIX fanboys just aren't accustomed to it because their S5s and whatever never had an issue with it. And Sony fanboys, they see that there's some negativity with the LUMIX S1R2, S1II, and they latch onto it, and that's all they key in on. Oh, that camera overheats, you shouldn't buy it. That camera overheats, that shouldn't buy it. But the reality is their own cameras be overheating, so they just need to shut the hell up. What the hell, you know? Same thing with LUMIX fanboys. Oh, your Sony colors are so green. I get this LUMIX S1 Mark II, and it's the greenest camera I've ever seen in my life in terms of colors, like right out of the box. And I'm not saying this to like talk shit about the LUMIX S1II. I like the LUMIX S1II. That's why I'm filming it right now. That's why I'm adding it to my kit as a good camera. Using same LUTs, like I'll just take a Sony LUT, drop it on LUMIX, or I take a LUMIX LUT, drop it on Sony. For me to get the LUMIX to match the Sony, I have to add magenta. This is the LUMIX S1II. So, you know, and overheating. Oh, you know, LUMIX overheating, LUMIX overheating. Freaking Sony has been overheating since the beginning of time. Since Peter McKinnon was still doing 120 frames per second B-rolls for the first time ever on YouTube. Sony has been overheating. Canon overheats. If anyone used Nikon, maybe it would overheat also. Every camera is going to have its strengths and weaknesses. And it's great that your LUMIX S5 whatever doesn't overheat. But it's also processing a lot less. And when shooting in 4K, the S5 just processes slower. There's a lot of rolling shutter in 4K full frame modes. It doesn't do 4K 60 full frame. So there's a lot less that camera is doing. Whereas the S1R2, S1II, it's doing a lot more processing, it's doing a lot more work. It's a black body. You put it in sunlight and you would overheat, yet alone the camera. So, you know, just you got to be realistic about these things. And I guess because I'm a Sony user, I'm just kind of accustomed to it. I don't see why like putting a camera in an realistic shooting situation, such as long duration 4K 60 in direct sunlight, 95 degrees, when people would probably not want to shoot in this situation. And if they for some reason had to shoot in this situation, they would prepare themselves, such as get an umbrella or do this, that, and the other, open the battery door, open the screen or something to prevent overheating. It's just common knowledge to do that as a Sony user. I don't see why the LUMIX S1 Mark II isn't a viable camera, because it could potentially overheat in direct sunlight, 4K 60p, long duration shooting. And right away, some of you D-bags in the comments are going to start saying that, oh, I'm a shill or whatever, because all of a sudden I'm joining the shill team 6 because I am promoting LUMIX because they sent me a camera on loan and that they are depositing money into my account. First of all, they're not depositing money into my account. Second of all, if this camera was trash, I would have sent it back already. If this camera was trash, I would tell you it's trash. This camera is a great camera, point blank, that is it, okay? It is autofocusing my face. It has freaking 6K open gate. And I know I said that open gate is not that important for social media recropping and everything, and I still stand by that. Like, you don't need OpenGate for that. Okay, but OpenGate does have other advantages, and I'm not going to sit here and spell it out for you. I've said this before in other videos, and I'll say it again. If you are going to call out tube douchers for just straight up shilling, and you know, maybe it's my fault, right? Because people don't catch my sarcasm, because I've talked about tube doucher shilling, and to be honest, there's levels of shilling. There's some tube douchers, you know, this is in all niches, right? We're talking about makeup, lifestyle, news, sports, camera. There's different levels of shills. There's some dudes who just, hey, you pay me money, you want me to mention you on my channel, I'll do it. There's some that's more selective, whatever. But when a tube doucher says their opinion about a gear, a product, and is a positive one, it is positive. And it's always based on their experience. Like even something as bad as like Insta360, right? I don't think Insta360's image quality is particularly good. But if the tube douchers think that it is good, then they're telling you it is good because that's the way it looks like to them. Because I could look at my videos from 6 years ago, which I thought was hot fire. When I look at it now, it looks like dumpster trash, right? I could listen to audio that I used to think was good. When I listen to it now, it's dumpster trash. Because believe it or not, all the YouTubers you watch, they're all also going on like a journey with, you know, this particular skill, this hobby, this profession. And as people grow, people's abilities change, their mind changes on certain things. So it's going to happen, you know, like my opinion on like 8-bit versus 10-bit completely changed than when it was 6 years ago. I used to say like, you don't need 10-bit and everything. And then nowadays I'm like, yo, I would not shoot anything that's not 10-bit, you know? And I used to be, just a month ago, my opinion was, yo, you know, Sony's IBIS is pretty good, it's underrated, and it is underrated. But now I got to shoot with LUMIX. The LUMIX IBIS is certainly next level. Like I cannot deny that. You know, it's borderline gimbal. So there's things that even if someone is getting paid to talk about something, they can still get paid to talk about it and it still be good. So let's say you are a Sony douchebag trash and you have a Sony FX3. It's a good camera, right? And you've been filming with it. And also one day Sony's like, hey, Sony douchebag fanboy, we are going to pay you $100. Can you just make a reel talking about your experience using the FX3? And glad you like the camera, say whatever you want, and just tell them sponsored by us, and it's $100. And you go in there and then you say whatever it is you feel like about, you know, your experience shooting the FX3, you love it or whatever. Does that make you a shill? I mean, if you're speaking your mind, you know, if you're being honest, like, you know, some people can say, well, people are going to hide negative things about the product. That all depends on the agreement. You know, like I wouldn't withhold something that's negative, something that people really need to know about a camera. Like right now, the most difficult thing I have with the LUMIX S1II is the menus. But at the same time, it could be just me that I'm used to like Sony menus, whatever. I'm not used to the menus, whatever. But I also understand that it is not like a deal breaker type of thing with buying cameras. You know, it's not a like, to me, a deal breaker would be being a full frame camera, but not being able to do 4K 60 full frame. That is a deal breaker to me in terms of like using it as a main camera. But I'm going to get back to that in a second. Bottom line is this. If you're a professional videographer And I am, every tube doucher is, because no matter how you look at it, these tube douchers are getting paid, right? Whether it be from ad rev, affiliate links, whatever, to do videos. And they're lighting the video, they're making sure there's sound in the video, they're setting up everything to film in various locations. And this is currently 41 minutes and 17 seconds of filming S1 Mark II 6K. I started off shooting wedding films, and then I started doing YouTube stuff, like started lighting doing these talking head YouTube stuff. And then I got hired to work for a marketing firm, and I started doing like corporate talking head stuff. And at the time, my only professional experience filming anything for money was weddings. Where did I get my knowledge to light a corporate video for the first time? It was from doing my YouTube videos. I learned how to light corporate talking heads from filming my own YouTube shit. So with that in mind, right, when you go film stuff for a client, you charge them for, let's say some small business needs you to do a video for them that they're going to post on their website, social media. So you need to bring your cameras, your tripods, your lighting. You need to set it up. Depending on how big the production is, you're going to need a grip. You're going to need a lighting guy. You're going to need an audio guy. You're going to need a camera op. You're going to need a DP. You're going to need this person. And then you also need a talent. If it's someone who works there doesn't want to do it, they're going to have to hire an actor to come in and sit for them to do this talking head, right? How much does that cost? Like, that would cost $10,000, $20,000, So a YouTuber, a tube doucher doing this camera shit is not only the audio person, the camera op, the DP, the script, the whatever. And that douchebag is the talent also. But they're not getting paid $10,000, $20,000 to make this basically review or promotional video on a particular product. But the matter of fact is, they also have more like influence on the customer. There are a ton of camera brands out there with their own YouTube channels, with their own videos, and they post up like their launch video, their launch promo, and those videos get like 500 views max. But when a tube doucher, like myself even, do a review video on the product, it will get thousands of views. So like the overall reach that a tube doucher will get for a certain brand also has to be considered, but a lot of times it's not, And the reason why tube douchers should get paid for the work they're doing, even if it's just a review or overview of a product, is because it takes a lot of work. And the tube doucher has some type of talent, whether it be charisma, the ability to talk a lot, or the ability to teach. All that stuff should be compensated for. You could say everyone is biased, or there's bias, there's this, that, and the other, and it's like that everywhere. It's like that at your office, it's like that at your cubicle. Whatever profession you're in, there's bias, there's shilling, there's bullshitting. Like, don't tell me that you walked into an interview for a job and you weren't shilling, because some of the shit that you said to that interviewer was bullshit. Oh, I'm on time, I'm really organized. Yeah, that's what I said most of the time. Have you seen my office? Like, my office is a mess, but that's what I told the interviewer. Like, oh yeah, I'm well organized. I am I work well as a team and all that stuff. That's shilling. That's shilling yourself. Going back to the S1 Mark II, when people ask me, I got so many people asking me about overheating, and I'm honestly telling you, it didn't overheat on me. I saw Armando on his channel. Some guy was asking him about overheating. He said it didn't overheat for him, and the dude accused him of lying. you know, because he's shilling for LUMIX or something like that. It is ridiculous because I know for a fact that I didn't overheat, and I see the way Armando does his content. Like his definitely probably didn't overheat either. So can it overheat? Yeah. I talked to guys who have been testing these LUMIX stuff more extensively, and yeah, it will overheat in certain situations, like direct sunlight, shooting stupid ass 4K 60 long duration. But that goes for pretty much any black bodied camera, hybrid body camera. So yeah, like this whole camera shit is changing. Okay, I decided to test LUMIX, and obviously now I'm adding it to my kit because LUMIX is doing things that are aligned more to what I want to do in the future. I have no intentions of buying like a Sony Burano. I do not want to buy an FX6. I don't want to buy an FX6II. I don't want to buy a freaking, you know, Fuji Eterna. I don't want to buy a Blackmagic Pixis. I want to continue to just shoot on these handheld cameras. Okay, and the better these handheld cameras get in terms of specs, the better it is for me. And LUMIX is the only one that is dedicated to doing that right now. Because if you look at Sony, their A7S III in the US is right now basically $3,900, $4,000. FX3A is $3,900. Their next video capable camera is the A1 Mark II. That is $6,500. It could do 4K up to 120 frames per second. It could do 8K. It has really good rolling shutter performance. It has really good dynamic range, but it is crippled by firmware. It is crippled by Sony not allowing it to do open gate, not allowing it to do this, that, and the other, because it cannot do what even its higher end cameras can't do yet. You know, like you cannot have a $6,500 hybrid camera having better video capabilities than your cinema stuff. And even at $6,500, the reason why I don't own an A1 II is because it's too expensive. So if people are waiting, you know, for the next FX3 Mark II, whatever, thinking, hey, it's going to have 6K, 8K open gate and all that stuff, it doesn't make sense for Sony to do that and have it be cheaper than the A1 Mark II, especially when LUMIX has the S1 Mark II with all of those specs that you're looking for. And yeah, we could say it has lacking in lenses, but those lenses are coming. Sirui, Viltrox and stuff, joining L mount. There's already some of those lenses available. Sigma is already on. There's a ton of lenses available. Anamorphic support because of OpenGate. And then people were like, well, you know, LUMIX doesn't have APS-C. Technically, the S5 Mark II, S1 II, let's just say S5 II and S5 IIX. Those cameras could do 4K 60 APS-C. In APS-C mode, those cameras have better dynamic range than your FX30. It has better rolling shutter performance than your FX30. So technically, if you just bought an S5 Mark II, S5 Mark IIX, and just treated it as an APS-C camera for video and for photo, whatever it is a better camera. If you treat it as an APS-C video camera, it is a better video camera to me than the FX30. Dynamic range, you know, we could argue about autofocus and all that stuff, but basically, if you just bought APS-C lenses for that camera and just treat it APS-C camera, that is your APS-C camera. It's basically the same price. You could buy an S5 II, even an S9, even for right around $1,000. So technically, that's APS-C camera with better IBIS and all that stuff. And now, if you combine like a new Sigma 17-40 f1.8 APS-C doing open gate, 60 frames per second with, you know, good dynamic range and really great IBIS, you have a killer ass APS-C camera from LUMIX. So, you know, why bother even going to APS-C when you already have really inexpensive full frame sensors that goes into APS-C mode better than actual APS-C cameras out there for equal price or cheaper than those dedicated APS-C cameras. So, you know, again, like I still have my Sony stuff. I'm not switching. I'm adding LUMIX to my kit. I'm still using Sony, but I'm just telling you The reason why I was open to doing this was because I see where LUMIX is going, and then I also see where Sony is going. And right now, LUMIX aligns better with how I like to film and in terms of like budget and all that stuff. Like, why would I spend 10, 20K on a camera when a camera that is $3,200 gets me better performance some places, and if not, it's only like 1% of the performance away from those 20K cameras. Easier to use, smaller, more compact. I could rig it out, make it bigger if I want to. That's how I am, you know. And in my opinion, that's where like the industry is going in terms of like filmmaking, docs, and everything. It's like, if I have a following on my YouTube channel, I don't need to like get funding from some production company and then have to be influenced by them on how I produce my work. I don't need to go work on a crew where they demand me have an FX6 type of body or like one of these other bigger cameras. I could do things my own way. I could go film a doc and tell the story the way I want to tell it, film it the way I want to film it, with the lenses I want, light it the way I want, have a smaller crew of close friends that I like to work with, and then I can just post it on YouTube. I don't need to do all this stuff, because I'm telling you, there's dudes who just post stuff on YouTube that produce way better stuff, way better looking stuff than things I see on Netflix and like other streaming platforms. So that is just my opinion on all this stuff. That's just my opinion. At the end of the day, as a consumer, as a like YouTube watcher or whatever, watching reviews to figure out if you're going to buy something, you have to get opinions from multiple people. And obviously there's YouTubers you could trust. I believe that I'm a trustworthy reviewer, and I actually believe my YouTube doucher colleagues that a lot of people accuse of being shills are trustworthy reviewers. But everyone has like different perspectives. Everyone works differently. Everyone works in different fields, in different industries with the video stuff. Everyone have different skill sets. Everyone likes to do things a certain way, whatever. And it's always good to get a perspective. It's always good to get other perspectives on different products. Like, for example, I like using these audio transmitters, whatever, as just the recorder itself. So I just record directly into that. I don't even bother connecting the wireless thing to the camera. A lot of guys like doing the wireless thing to the camera. I just like turning it on, recording it, and calling it a day, and I'll sync it. It takes 2 seconds. That's my workflow. I actually don't think it's a bad idea if Kamika just sold this on its own and allowed people to just buy that and then call it a day. Just hit record and be done. But, it's always good perspective. Like, you could always get perspective on LUMIX autofocus from the plethora of LUMIX fanboy tube douchers out there. But it's also good to get perspective from me, who's someone who's been on Sony's, autofocus, system. And I could really see the differences and stuff, of how it works. And, I could really give you a good gauge of how good or bad the LUMIX autofocus system is right now. So, and I do plan on going into that more in depth in a future video. But, this video was just a little rant, some complaints, some grievances. But, it's a tough time in the industry right now. It's a tough time, whether it be wedding filmmaking to like Hollywood, whatever. People are struggling to find jobs, and it's much better to be supportive of everyone versus putting everybody down, just for trying to pay bills and stuff. And they're trying to just make an honest living, and people are just out here trying to like accuse them of doing this, that, and the other, accusing people of lying. There's like people who are rich as hell. Everyone in most YouTube guys, just regular dudes, man. We're trying to get by, who cares if we have sponsorships and stuff like that? There's people like Stephen A. Smith, who is like a millionaire, billionaire, whatever. He has a YouTube channel, and you always see him in every video. All right, guys, give me a moment to pay my bills. And he has a bunch of sponsors that he talks about. He doesn't even need sponsors, but he has them. So that is just my take. I hope this video is interesting, insightful, and, you know, entertaining or whatever. As always, please like and subscribe. It helps this channel grow, helps me, and I appreciate it. Until next time, lighten up.
Hey man, you got a new camera?
Yeah, this is actually the LUMIX S1II. I actually have it all rigged out with the tilter cage on it. Those tube dusher shills actually weren't shilling. This is a great camera.
Oh my god, LUMIX S1II. It's rat and unprofessional.
Why do you say that?
It have an overheat problem.
Bro, I use this camera to film 6K open gate for like 3 hours. 5.1K 60 frames per second open gate in like 95-degree weather. I didn't even get an overheat warning.
No man, I have a friend with an uncle who cousin saw on the Facebook a guy say his friend father with a LUMIX S1II it overheat in 5 minutes with 4K 60.
They must have been in India filming Indian street food directly on top of a bucket of hot brown oil surrounded by hot and humid sweaty pits.
You need to do the overheat test outside in direct sunlight 4K 60.
Bro, no one films a long duration 4K 60p in shitty ass direct sunlight. I am not gonna do a bunch of unrealistic overheating tests.
Let me show you. You could film the camera with 4K 60 put in the microwave. It overheat, it unprofessional. You film the camera 4K 60 in the air fryer, it overheat, it unprofessional. You film the camera like that 4K 60, it overheat, it unprofessional.
Bro, back your mouth away from the damn camera. Your hot ass fish sauce breath will melt the camera before it even overheats.